Welcome. Today we have Miss Tiena Fletcher with us to talk about her experience with the Leesburg Stockade, as well as just a little bit about who she is as a person. We're here to celebrate the idea of living history and to listen to this story and how it impacted not only her life, but how it continues to impact people's lives today. So, Miss Tiena, we thank you so much for being here with us today.
Well, thank you so much. I'd like to thank the Justice League and Janae and maybe Margaret Matthews in her absence. I hear she's not here. And Pastor Jeff Cook. I don't know if he's here or not, but in his absence, of course, I'd like to acknowledge him. And Angela, the director of communications, yeah, I thank her. But I want to thank you all for having me here. And I'll be honest with you, this is what I do. Not every day, of course. You don't go around with a sign on your chest. But anytime that I'm asked to share, I think it's a story that needs to be told. Like many other stories, there were so many stories on both sides that need to be told. And mine, I'm trying to get it written down in history now, writing a book. I've started it, but let's see where it goes. But anyway, thank you so much for having me today.
Absolutely. So we will start. I just wanted to ask you, could you tell us a little bit about you? What do you do currently, and where did you grow up, and just a little background.
Okay, I was born and raised in Americus, Georgia. What you'll hear about, there was a hotbed for the civil rights movement, along with Albany, Georgia, and some other areas. Just like they were having their issues over in Birmingham and Little Rock and da da da. Things were happening as the movement was in full force. But I'm the daughter of the late Reverend Ariel Freeman and Clara Freeman, who my dad was a pastor. I'm a preacher's kid. He pastored Bethesda Baptist Church in Americus, Georgia, for 43 years. And so I grew up in the church. And I ended up professionally being director of pharmacy at House of Medical Center, just up the road. For 38 years, I worked at that. Well, really 42, because I worked 4 hours PRN. I need to turn this phone off. It's y'all don't hear it, do you? It's ringing in my ear. Um, and I can hear it, but I just turned it off. So, but I worked there 44 years, actually 4 years PRN after my full-time duty, but 38 years, 36 years as director, and 2 years when I was hired and moving up. But I often say, and as I talk about it, all my life, God has favored me. And when I say he favored me, I went through trials and tribulations, some, but he opened doors for me that no one could imagine would have been open in the 70s when I can't hit Warner Robins and was hired at that hospital. Charlie Hall, a white man, put me in that position because he saw the value in me as a person. And when you acknowledge people and see their value as a human being, as a person, then, I just think so much of him. And I was able to stay there. Had a lot of I was totally white medical staff, not a black on it or otherwise. And several incidents happened where they tried to remove me, but God prevailed. And I stayed there, and I left there on my own terms. So presently, what I do now, I'm retired. I'm still working. My husband passed 2 years ago in July, and he ran a janitorial company, American Wizard Inc. And guess who's Miss CEO now? We had a rental business with rental houses. We sold the apartments. I don't know, just whatever, December before he told me we need to sell them, and not knowing he was going to be gone, and we did. And I was so happy those apartments were gone. We had 4 buildings, houses, 70-some students for Gordon College up in Barnesville, Georgia. And of course, we sold that, but we still got rental houses, and I'm still managing the rental houses. So my life is full. Plus, I'm AKA, I'm Links, I'm my church ministry, caregivers ministry. I do that. I'm working on the America Sumter County movement. Remember, there was a colored hospital in Americus, Georgia, that used to serve black professionals and black nurses and doctors and trained them, and they did surgeries and whatever. That hospital was closed when the whites took the funding away. And then it ended up being several different things. Well, there was a group of us, and we ended up with a $2.5 million grant from the federal government, National Park Service. And I'm the treasurer. I pay the contractors and draw the money down and do all this stuff. So I have a full life. At 76, I have a full life every day. So that's what I'm doing now.
I love it. Thank you for sharing it. I can hear that even though you're retired, you are hard at work. So could you tell us a little bit about, so we know that you grew up in Americus, but what did life look like for a little girl growing up in the Jim Crow South, and how aware were you? What did that look like?
I mean, I grew up there, and I've always recognized that there was a difference. And I just couldn't understand it as a child, especially when I got to be.
No one had to tell you. You just
I just knew it. Well, let me tell you, when you go in the drugstore to get, and there's a soda fountain, and it say whites only, or there's a water fountain in any of the stores, and they go white and they go colored. I mean, it's obvious. It's very obvious, and how you're treated. When we go to the doctor, we can't go sit in the front. We have to walk around an alley in the back, and that's the waiting room for colors only. I recognize that. And I used to ask my mama, why can't I go sit up there? And she used to go, hush, child. That's just the way it is. Who you go in to buy shoes, and you're being waited on, and a white person come in, they stop waiting on you and go wait on the white person, and then come back to you when their transaction was finished. And I used to say, Mama, that ain't fair. I know in school we used to talk about who was first, got served first. I said, Mama, that's not fair. And she'd go, hush. That's just the way it is. So you knew that. And when they started marching against it, you just fell into that flow.
Mm-hmm. It was just time for change.
It was just time for
Time
change.
to get up and move.
Yes.
Okay. That actually leads me into what I'm curious about next is when did that start becoming a thing? Was that something you heard brewing in your home? Was it like, we're going to go out and we're going to do this like your parents? Were your parents heavily involved in civil rights protesting? Or
Not my mother as so much. She was kind of a quiet pastor's wife. Made sure my dad had everything he needed in the pulpit, on Sundays. Ironed his shirts. He wore collared shirts every day. My father was, and he never wore khaki pants. I never saw him would have kept our khaki pants on. I mean, it was a pair of suit pants and whatever, but because he was intertwined with the NAACP and whatever, we often heard a lot of what was going on in the town. I mean, you just overhear it, you know. And so it was in my home. I remember when Martin Luther King was locked up in Albany and they sent him to Americus, Georgia to be jailed. Um, they, you know, my dad talked to him and they knew him. And when he got out of jail, he came by our house.
Wow.
So, you know, I didn't know him like personally, like he would remember me, but I have seen and met the man.
That's amazing.
So, but yes, it was always something brewing, and it started really overflowing in the summers of 63, 64, and 65, when I was 13, turning 14, and so on.
Okay. So a little before then, you attended a segregated school?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
And y'all have heard the stories, and it's true. Every book I got had somebody else's name in it. Never received a new book until I got to the white school.
Mm-hmm.
I got new books then. But I don't know, as you ask the questions and we get on into it, segregated schools, supposed to be separate but equal. The law was struck down that it couldn't be because they were giving more to one side than they was to the other. How could, and that's when the children of the people are at a disadvantage. And that's one of the things that we have to recognize now in our Christian walk. Where is the disadvantage, and where do my Christian heart need to be in order to fix that or help fix it? You know, some of the problems are way too big, but I do what I can. You know, you talk about children going to school hungry, poor, living in, you know, no sleep at night, no this. They are disadvantaged. And they can't learn properly as well as a child that comes to school, fully fed, sleep at night, parents this and whatever. And I understand, I can go on and on and on,
I
but let me
know.
tell you, I'm a big talker, so.
Me too. Me too.
Let me let you ask your questions, and I will, but it was there.
Okay. Well, you're going in the same direction I am, girl. But so, when did the integration occur, and what was your experience with that? Were you a big part of? Were you on the scene from the beginning?
On the beginning, well, we had marched and gone to jail. That's when we did the Stolen Girls. That was in 63. But in 1964, I remember the guys came around and they were SNCC guys, and they were saying, we're looking for students to go to integrate schools in America's High. Our Board of Education is opening the schools up. And I said, yeah, I want to go. White school, the high school was 2 blocks from my house. The black schools across town. I'm going to tell you, I've always been a very enthusiastic child. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be honest with you, I imagine me going over there, making white friends, and it just being, I know they had to get to know me, but I thought, you know, I had a good personality, you know, and I just thought, and they go to church like I go to church, all them white churches down there, you know, on Lee Street, and all those streets, and children go and, you know, the songs I sang was, you know, Jesus loved the little children, all the children of the world, yellow, black, you know, and white. They are all precious in His sight. So I couldn't imagine anybody being so cruel. But the first day we rode on that campus, it was three of us: Dobbs, Wiggins, Minnie Wise, and myself, and a white guy from Colonial Farm, Greg Whitcamper. Would you ever read the Class of '65 by Jim Algernon? That book is about him. I'm in that book. Several of my stories are in that book. But he was from Colonial Farm. Y'all ever heard about Colonial Farm? Outside of Americus, Georgia, they got bombed, and they had this integrated community, and people hated them over there in the city, and tried to shut them down, and blah 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 blah. Well, they still going. 70-some years later, Colonial Farm still exists down there. That's God's favor, you know. But there's some great people. But Greg was from there, and he wrote the school with us that day. I think every white person in Americas was on that campus. I mean, as far as I could see, sitting in the back of that car, bricks were hitting the car, stones were hitting the car. They were hollering and holding signs, pushing the car. I thought we were going to rock and they were going to turn us over. As a child, that's the closest I felt like I was going to die. I thought they were going to kill us that day. But the sheriff hit the top of the car and told the driver to drive around to the principal's office. And that school had a fire, so they had a lot of trailers in the back. And the principal's office was in a trailer, and put us out till they could clear the campus. So that's what he did. And then that's when I had my first day of school in Americus High. Not without contention. We tried to pass class after they gave us our schedule. You got pushed up against the lockers and called names and spitballs and, you know, and what are you doing here? You need to go back to your school. And when they figured out that we could not be in the halls with the others, because the halls were so congested, and the teachers would be standing in their doors, and most of them would just turn their head. Nobody was trying to stop what was going on, and that hurt me. I mean, because I just looked up to teachers. My dad and mama were teachers, and they always had rule of authority, you know, in there or whatever, and could instruct students and, you know, make them behave or do whatever. But so they made up a rule that we were supposed to leave 5 minutes before or 5 minutes after the bell rang. The teacher's supposed to do that if she could remember or something wasn't going on, and therefore we wouldn't be attacked by the students. And so that's how we successfully managed some of that. All the abuse necessary didn't go away, but that constant, every day that you were in the halls with them, somebody was going to trip you up. The boys, they were going to trip them up or, you know, do something. So that's how we got through that.
Thank you for sharing that story. It's hard to imagine. It's hard to imagine people treating children that way. And especially just because of your skin color. It's and it didn't happen that long ago, you know. And I just think it's so important for us to tell this story and from this perspective. So when you were a teenager and you were going through all of this, what did you think about your options in the Jim Crow South? Did you start to feel more and more put down by the system, or was this encouraging to you? Or
well, let me tell you, parenting And a lot of people don't necessarily have what you had and what I had. It wasn't an option.
Mm-hmm.
Going to school wasn't an option. My house.
That's for sure.
I mean,
We're going.
I had perfect attendance practically every year I was in school. I'm just saying because that's just education. My father and mother felt like were the key, essential key to us rising above and gaining some leverage where we were on the same as equal ranking as we possibly could. They just kept saying education, and so we went to school. So my outlook was always I'm gonna be something.
Right.
Good.
Either way, right.
At that age, I didn't until I got up first, and then later, and I wanted to be in the medical profession. I actually wanted to go to medical school and could have, but then got that love bug. You know how they do. Wanted to get married. and put his career above mine. Of course, he was a lawyer.
So he was doing a pretty good job.
Huh?
He was doing a pretty good job.
Oh yeah, and I had to work those last years of his law school, and of course that marriage didn't work. That wasn't the one that I ended up with, but 14 years later. But so that's life. So things happen. But my outlook as a child, my outlook was always on the positive side.
Yeah.
It was not, but I realized that there are so many more kids that don't have that.
Yeah.
That's why I believe in mentoring. And I'm not bragging, but I want to tell you, I've mentored 2 kids in my life that I am really pleased with. One is a teacher here in Houston County now at the middle school. But when she was in 8th grade, I joined the Houston County mentoring program. And she was about the same age as my daughter. And I take her to the football games. I take her to, well, I remember when her mother said that, well, I started mentoring her in 8th grade, and then her mother said she had to go to work. And she couldn't go to college. And, oh, man, that busted my bubble. I even got one of the pastors that knew the family to go over there and talk to the mama, and he said, you ain't talking to her. But 3 days or 2 days before she was supposed to be at school, she agreed. Child took that child to Walmart. We bought ironing boards. We bought this and that. We packed them in my car. I drove her up to that college and told her, and I made a mistake in doing that. I told her, whenever you need to come home, call me. She did call me. I mean, and I was going, but I did. Winding up through that Atlanta traffic, which you can call it, I went on up there and got her some Friday afternoons. And another parent and I worked on us, sharing rides, and somebody else would take her back, or sometimes I had to. But she was in nursing school. But I will tell you this story. And see, it's just how God just works. He just works. I'm just telling you, they were going to put her mother out of their housing. And somebody at that school, I told them that she had to leave school because she had to go home because her mother was being put out. They told somebody that was in the Senate or something, and do you know they called the housing authority and told them as long as that girl was in school, they would not put her mama out of school? Wow. You know that? And I went, I didn't go to nobody to fuss and say, you got to do. I just was telling the story, and somebody overheard it and took it and ran. And she didn't finish nursing. She ended up going into teaching, but she got a master's now. Wow. And she do disabled kids, what you call special ed. And she's teaching now over in middle school. I am proud of that. And I won't belabor, but I got another student that I helped I meant it because I think if you're gonna make a difference, I love giving to American Cancer Society. I love giving to some. I think they do great work. Is needed, but that one-on-one is nothing like it.
Mm-hmm.
When you can grab that child and you can help whatever the need is, and that's my greatest joy.
That's amazing. Okay, so
You're not gonna get through all them questions.
I am not. I am not. So I want to get straight into the Leesburg now.
Okay.
So I would like to know, why did you and the other girls choose the Martin Theater?
We didn't. I mean, the movement chose it.
Okay.
But I remember they used to come around and we were having mass meetings. It was a hot summer, July and August, and we'd go to different churches, and they'd come around and whisper, mass meeting at Bethel tonight, mass meeting at such and such. And we would go, and I remember my mother used to say, please don't go to jail, please don't go to jail. She said, I know you're going to the meeting, but please don't go to jail. And my sister went 2 weeks before I did. I knew when she went, I was going. It's just a matter of when. We're very close. We're 17 months apart.
Wow.
And people say we look alike. I don't think so, but she don't think so either. But they said we look like twins. Y'all got to be sisters. Are y'all twins? No, we not twins. But so I remember the night that I went to jail. Willie Ricks, one of them, they used to call him outside agitators, but he was steering the group, and we were going downtown. And I remember the song that I went to jail on. And it's, ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. Keep on a-walking, keep on a-talking, marching up the King's Highway. And those songs like that. And before I be a slave, I'll be buried. And you get emotional. You get caught up in it because we're singing as loud as we can, and it just gets in you. And we just form those lines in. We were at Bethesda Baptist Church, my home church, when I walked out of that church, and we didn't get more than 2 blocks before we were met with police force. And they put us in what they call paddy wagons. And these wagons, they just threw us in there, and we were taken to the city jail. I was crazy, and we were making so much noise and singing loud and whatever. They wanted to shut us up. So they put some of the girls in hot boxes, sweat boxes. I was one of them, and it was just miserable. I mean, and it did quiet you. I mean, you wouldn't sing or whatever, but keep up noise. And then that next morning, I remember being put on the back of a truck and being taken to Leesburg. And the reason they took Leesburg is because there were so many people going to jail in America. Adults, boys, girls, whatever. We were filling up the jails. They had nowhere to put us. So they called Dawson. Some of the kids were over in Dawson, Leesburg, and they decided to put all the girls from 12, that was some 12-year-old girls in there, to 15. 60, may have been a 16-year. I have to go back and look at my book. The story is written up in this Essence magazine. This was done in 2006. There was a writer that came down and did an exploration of the whole situation and listed all the girls from the court records that had been locked up and had placed in that place. But we went there, and the conditions were deplorable. It's an old cattle stockade, is what they did. And in the back of it, they had a toilet, a whole water hose that dripped water, and that was the water we were supposed to drink out of. And they put a guard, it had bars on it, the door to another door where the guard slept. And we used to call him Pops, some of the other kids. But when I got to the Leesburg County, I want to clarify this. There were already girls there, but they just kept adding and adding and adding. It wasn't that they took all the girls at one time and threw them in there. We got 4 hamburgers a day, and they was those crystal burger size. You ate them all at one time, you were out of luck for the rest of the day. I mean, we girls in there, we got no sanitary supplies or items to. So it means if you didn't have a toothbrush on you, which I doubt when you got locked up, you didn't brush your teeth for however many days you were in there. Some girls were in there as long as 45 days. I was in there close to 30 days. But some of the girls were having their periods. I never forget that. And we weren't given anything. We basically used whatever clothes we had on our backs to help the girls, you know. But it was just so unsanitary. And I remember they put a rattlesnake in there. We say they put it in there. It may have just come in through the bars because one of the bars didn't have any covering over. I mean, it was nothing, no glass. I mean, no nothing. So it could have come in through Pop's area. I don't know. But I remember when they let us out to get the snake and kill him. Some girls said they heard the hissing all night, that it came in the night before. I don't know. I didn't hear it. But when they did that, somebody said, run. And girls started, because the highway ran alongside a hill down by the stockade. They said, run. And then somebody else with some sense said, don't run, don't run. Pops is here with the shotgun, because he carried a shotgun. He kept that shotgun with him all the time when he was guarding us. The dog catcher was the one that used to bring our meal every day, Mr. Story. We knew him from being around the neighborhood. But so we got back in and you know, but to keep our spirits up, and several of the girls like Gloria Westbrook and some of the others, they were a little older, and some of them were in, we all had a sense of religion, I think. I knew, you know, because I knew some of the parents and girls. But we used to sing songs, spiritual songs. We used to sing a civil rights song. We used to just sing, we used to tell jokes. If somebody knew a joke, we used to just, I don't know, perform to pass the time away. I remember that, and because I never did do anything because I didn't think I had anything. But I used to watch them. I used to sing with the group whenever we used to sing. But that's how we passed the time away. They called us the Stolen Girls because there was a period of time in there when our parents didn't know where we were. My dad said he went down there repeatedly, asked, where's my daughter? Where are my children? And he couldn't get the information. We finally found out where we were when a reporter, I forgot his name, came and because somebody had said where we were.
Danny Lyons?
Danny Lyons.
Okay.
That's all I had to do. I knew it. And he came and he asked the girl, and the reason he didn't get all the girls that were in there, he asked the girls, shh, be quiet, because he said he was scared. He didn't know if he would get shot or killed. And he asked the girl, you know, don't let Pop know I'm here. Act natural. So some of the girls went over there to the bars where he were. I remember I was sitting down on the side. You know, my sister and I, we were sitting there. We didn't get up and go to the window. So there were more girls in here than you see depicted in this picture of stolen girls. And some of the girls that are later whatever telling the story want to say it's only the 15 girls that you see here that were in there, and that's not true. And there were a lot of girls, more girls that came through there. Henrietta Fuller, y'all don't know. I mean, I could name the names because they were some of my classmates and stuff. I know they were there. And some of us did affidavits after we came out of there, which told that we were in the Leesburg song. But that's how we got that, and we got out, and eventually, because schools had started in September, and we all went back to school, and that's the story of Stolen Girls.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing. I do have one question. When you were in there, were they giving you any information about when you might get out,
No,
or your parents, or
No,
just nothing?
nothing. Some of the girls would go over there and say, "Hey, Pops." And I don't even know if they gave him that name or that was his real name or his real nickname, or we gave it to him. And they tried to talk to him, and most times he just grunt or whatever. He wouldn't really give them much information. The one thing I failed to tell you is that one toilet back there, with so many girls trying to use it, and there's a picture of it in here. It got stopped up because Danny went around to that other window and took a picture of that toilet. It was full. And the stench from it, I'll never forget it. The stench from that toilet was awful.
How old were you, honey?
I was 13 turning 14. I would have been 14 September the 14th when that happened to me.
Just a child.
Yeah.
Just a child. So, looking back on this now, how would you assess the impact that people learning about this and knowing about it has had on the community? And do you think it should be like taught more?
Well,
I've ran into a lot of people who haven't heard of this experience.
that's right. And I look at those experiences as being what was necessary to bring about integration and where we are now. You have to go through it. You don't win a war without fighting. You got to have some troopers on the ground doing the fighting. We were part of that. At one point in my life, you could say you could build up resentment, and most certainly I have. Even though I passed through it and I'm over, I have scars. I would tell you this, God works again. I hated America's high school. I graduated, they made us all graduate, the 3 blacks that graduated. And I was the only black that graduated that was in that car. The rest of them went back. I remember the night my daddy came to my door and said, "They're going back. I respect your opinion. Whatever you decide to do, I'll support it." And I told him, "You didn't raise no quitter. I'm not going." But I have to understand why the rest of them. One guy interviewed said he felt like he went going to America's High. He was going from elementary school to college. He didn't feel like he was adequately prepared. But you see, I've always been a hungry student. I was an A student in the black school, and darn if I wasn't gonna be an A student in the white school. And I know you can say, well, that was a little distant. I studied my butt off. I made the beta club. I got my little beta club here now. People say, you kept that all these years, that little bitty pen? Yes, I did. I couldn't go to the beta club meeting because they told me it was unsafe. You know, but they did do that. And so, you know, but I hated that school. I hated it, what they did to me and what all we had gone through before. Years later, guess who became the principal of that school? My sister. My very sister became the principal of America's High School. And I said, so she established a Black History program in the school. They had fully integrated the black school and the white school, and so, you know. And when she did that, she called me and she said, I want you to be my Black History speaker this year. I didn't know I won't. I said, I'm not coming back to that school, but you know she's my big sister, so a bit older than I am. And she said, yeah. She said, she kept on. She said, I'm not going to stop until you say you're going to do it. I did it. And I spoke. My mom and daddy came. I spoke. But before we ended the program, Susan Parker, white girl, teacher, made her way to the podium. And she said, asked my sister, could she speak? She said, they used to call me Robertina, my name. And my dad didn't call me Robertina. But I am named after my dad. But I choose Tiena Fletcher because people can't get it right. But everybody know me as Tiena Fletcher. But she said, Robertina may not remember me, but I was in her class. And I looked at her and I remembered her. She said, I didn't spit on her. I watched it. I didn't knock her down, but I watched them. I didn't do any of that. But she said, I feel guilty. I feel just as guilty because I sat there, I knew better, and I didn't say anything. And for that, she said, I want to say I'm sorry. Welcome her back to the school today. I would like to hold her hand and sing our alma mater. The whole gym went up and I was crying. I'm about to cry now. She was crying. But I tell you what that did for me. That began a healing that I personally needed to start my road of forgiveness. And forgiveness is not necessary for the other person. The forgiveness was to help heal me because I had been through so much. And I do forgive. And I held her hand. As much as I could remember the Mama Mater, I sung it. Yeah. Sorry it takes so long.
Don't be sorry. I think there's wet eyes all around. But thank you for sharing this. It means so much. It really does. And do you see any parallels between the experience you had in the Leesburg Stockade and anything going on in our country right now?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. Trying to erase history for blacks and others is wrong. It's history. I'm not trying to make you feel bad. I'm not trying to make you feel guilty. But if you don't know your history, it can repeat itself. And in many instances, you do have those hidden racisms, and you need to recognize it. And that goes not only to whites, blacks, and all. You got to
you don't start the healing process if you're alcoholic, if you're this or that, until you recognize and admit the problem, even if it was within yourself. Am I being fair? Should I think about this differently? Can I listen to the other side and see if there's some substance there other than totally whitewashing it? But they can do it all they want. It exists. It's there. And I think the more groups like you and me and us that listen to each other, understand where we're coming from. You had probably a totally different upbringing. Some of you hard, some of you, soft on the other side, Great. God afforded you that. But the things that are happening today to whitewash history or to, for instance, I'll be honest with you, that grant we got, that $2.5 million grant, we had $800,000, $600,000 sitting up into the account, the federal government account that hadn't been drawn down yet. Our coordinator was about to be fired. Trump had come in and stopped all the money going out. But we were fearful that they were going to start pulling money back from that was sitting in there. I drew every penny down. Now, I'm being honest. Nobody can touch that money unless they give me that the work is done. I'm real strict. They know it. So it's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to be floundering. But we will use it on that project. But our coordinator told us to do that. I probably wouldn't have done it if the lady in Washington say, I'm being fired. My last day is Friday. Draw your money. Now, we put in for another grant, and they have stalled all grants coming out of the parks, National Park Service. I don't know if we're going to get any more. But, it's a lot going on today that we need to recognize. And some of it's affecting not just white children, black children, white children, that need these after-school programs where they freeze the money up here. I understand, what can we do? But at some point when we go to the polls, the people need to be out of there. And we need to recognize it. We don't need to say, I'm on both party lines. I've been a Democrat all my life. I've been a Republican. You need to look at the candidate, and the candidate that best serves our community. That's the one we need to put in office. I don't care what color he is. And that's what we need to do.
That's what we need to do. And we can't stay silent.
That's right.
Yeah. All right, Miss Robertina. Well, we are going to wrap it up, ma'am. But before we do, I wanted to ask you, do you have any encouraging words to speak to young people, especially young women, about just their community voices and what they can do and how important they are?
It's very important where you have a voice, even if you change somebody's mind in a way that is the right way. Like Martin Luther King says, never the wrong time to do the right thing. You got to do the right thing. So, you're going down a Christian path, and your heart tells you that this is wrong. And if you have that opportunity to use that voice, you need to use it. You don't need to be scared. Now, I don't want anybody to think they need to go out there and be a rabble-rouser and put their neck on the line where they might be shot or might be killed or they might. That's not what I'm saying. But many times you have that opportunity and you go, oh, Jesus, oh, God, where did they get that idea? And you had the opportunity to say something or to voice it. And I want to tell you something. I learned this poem in 5th grade. Audubell Roberts was my teacher, and she used to make us learn poems and scripture. And everybody, all the kids thought it was so hard, but I don't know. I just took to it. I know we had to learn the whole chapter, 12th chapter of Ecclesiastes. Remember thy Creator in the days of thy youth, when the evil days come out of the years, when I have no pleasure in them. While sun, marks, moon, stars, and don't have, we learned that. We learned that. But she taught this poem called You. And I've always carried it in my heart. And it says, you are the one that has to decide whether you do it or toss it aside. You are the one to make up your mind whether you lead or linger behind, whether you strive for the good that's afar or be content to stay where you are. You take it or leave it. There's something to do. Just think it over. It's all up to you. It's a personal thing. And it's a personal thing that starts movements. It's a personal thing that,
We just recognized as Shel Silverstein. We were just back here.
Yeah. But anyway, we have to come together, and our voices need to be heard. And that's all I got to say.
Thank you so much. Well, we thank you so much just for being here today and talking with us and sharing your story. It's very personal, so we really appreciate it. I want to thank everybody who helped me write these questions and put this together. Thank you to my mom for telling me about Robertina and her story so that I could get her here to talk to us today.
She told you got somebody right here in your family.
That's pretty much what she said. And I want to thank Angela and Trinity United Methodist in general for allowing me to do and work on these types of things. I'd like to thank Jeff for always just supporting whatever we have going on and helping to make it happen. And that is about it.